I think it's nearly 10 years since I started to try and find justice for my mother, who is now deceased. It started in a nursing home where I felt she was being mistreated, and I tried to get satisfaction from the home and failed, and ultimately went to the GMC and the NMC, who are the monitoring bodies for such things. And that's only really the beginning of the story, because what one has met on the way are the most incredible blockages to an ordinary person trying to find justice. The justice for me after these 10 years seems to be for the wealthy and the elite or the very poor. But if you're just an ordinary person, like I am, it's very, very difficult to find your way through these labyrinths that are these organisations, and they can tie you up in knots and you don't know what they're talking about, and it takes a long time and a lot of reading to find your way through it all. At the end of this time, at this moment, really there are several things that really concern me. I think one of the things that I've learned that really concerns me is that all these organisations, the GMC and the NMC, operate at the criminal level of proof. This means that you have to prove it beyond any doubt that such things happened to your relatives. Now this makes it almost impossible, because even official reports from local organisations become hearsay and they're not acceptable at the criminal level of proof. So you're left with very little. It's only what can be shown to have been directly said between you and the authority in the home or wherever you are. Until this is changed, I think it's going to be very, very difficult for people in nursing homes to prove what has happened to them. You really need now photographic, on-the-moment evidence, and that is very hard to come by. And you don't, when you're putting your relative in a home, you're not looking to film what's happening, you know. So I think that's something that really has to be fought for. The level of proof has to be changed. There have been many cases in the High Court where judges have said that these organisations, they're not courts, they're only tribunals, and that they should be able to operate at a sliding scale of proof. We weren't trying to prove that the people in charge of our relatives had committed crimes as such. What we were trying to say that the care was inadequate and sometimes abusive. And I don't think you should have to prove it to the criminal level. So that's one thing that I've learned, and really I would like to fight for, is to change the level of proof in these organisations. The other thing that an awful lot of people don't realise is that as a private individual, paying for your care in a private home, you are not covered by the Human Rights Act. Now, I know just recently we will have heard on the media that there has been an advance in this area, in that people who are put in a private home by the council, paid for by the council, are going to be protected by the Human Rights Act. But anybody who hasn't been put there by the council is still unprotected. You have no rights, but the carers do. And this seems to me a basic injustice. The other thing that I discovered really was that you're also not protected by the Health Ombudsman. I wrote to the Health Ombudsman when things were getting difficult and wanted him to look at my case, and he wrote back and said, as I was not funded by the local council, I didn't come under his jurisdiction. And you come under nobody's jurisdiction. Now that has got to be changed, because once again, that is most unfair. I could be sitting in a bed next to somebody who is getting the same treatment as I am. That person could appeal to the human rights and to the ombudsman, and I, because I'm paying for my care myself, wouldn't be able to. And this can't be right. Cannot be right. Then the next thing that really worries me is the monitoring bodies, Seasky. It was the local health authority when my mother was in her home, and in fact the person in charge of monitoring at that local health authority, or rather in charge of inspecting, could have prevented an awful lot of what had happened. But the home was given clean bills of health on every visit, which simply wasn't true. There were wheelchairs that you couldn't use, there were lack of commodes, all sorts of equipment, people never answered bells, all kinds of things that I'm sure other people find in these homes. And unless you have rigorous inspection of these homes, all these kind of inadequacies are going to continue. Now, the worrying thing about that is that just recently they've decided to cut down on the number of inspections. So my mother, for instance, was in her home for 1.5 years. Now, during that time, it's quite possible with the new inspection rules that that home would not have been inspected in the entire time she was there. That is unacceptable. These are the things that I've learnt from trying to fight my mother's case, and I do hope that everybody really will learn from what's happened and will band together to try and change things. It's us ordinary people who have got to lobby to change things. You and me and my friend and the lady next door, we are the only people, if we speak out in large enough numbers, and if we make our cases known, then I do believe we will eventually change things. And that's really my aim now.